Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you can hear the air conditioning throughout this video, I apologize. I just filmed an ASMR video with it turned off and it got so hot in here I had to turn it back on. But hopefully it's fine. So today we are filming our June reading wrap up and I had a really great reading month. I think I read, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, there's only 5 on here, but I read 6 in total. So we're gonna just get straight into it. The first book I read in the month of June was Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. Here's the thing, I actually never thought I would read Sally Rooney. I don't know why. Am I just like a contrarian and was like everyone else is reading Sally Rooney, so I'm not gonna read Sally Rooney? I had the same thing with Ottessa Moshfegh, and similar ways that I got into reading them. I found her book for like $1 at this bookstore in Southern California, and I was like, why not? I'll just try it. And I ended up really liking it. And the same thing happened with Conversations with Friends. I saw it in a little free library and I was like, you know what? If I'm ever gonna read Sally Rooney, it's gonna be this way. So I picked it up and I really liked it. Here's what I'll say. It's been so long since I read it. It was very readable. It was very, very compulsively readable. Let's see what my notes were from this reading experience. I said, the real takeaway for me towards the end is how you inadvertently have to sacrifice your life for your art, if that is something that is important enough for you. Frances is left with nothing at the end, but she does end up with some level of success with her writing. She was only able to achieve through ruining her closest friendship. Now, I actually don't remember if I wrote that after reading the book completely. I almost now am feeling like she did kind of make up with her friend at the end, and so maybe that's just like null and void at the end of the day. But yeah, I mean, I did like it. I liked this kind of doomed relationship that she had with the and now of course I'm forgetting everyone's names. I think his name was Nick, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I really hated every character and I think it was really well done. So I really loved the dynamic between Nick's wife and her, and like that letter that Nick's wife writes to her is like so like brutal, and I think that was my favorite part of the book, if you know what I'm talking about. Okay, I'm not gonna even go too much into these books because it's been so long and I don't want to like talk about something that I don't really remember fully. The next book I read though was Transcription by Ben Lerner. This is his latest book, and wow, I really loved this book. I think it is the best book, one of the best books I've read so far this year. Let's see, what did I write? Really explores the physical manifestations of withdrawal from technology, how we have forgotten what it's like to live without our phones, and how every moment of lives is different down to our basic physicalities. It's a frightening thought to realize that I'm addicted to something that I can't imagine a life without, something that was invented in my lifetime. How accustomed we've become to constant information at our fingertips. That has born in us an entitlement that manifests in people not wanting to do the work of even going on Google to find out information, let alone picking up a book and picking up more information on the way. In stripping the need to have to search for the information we desire, we have stripped ourselves of daily opportunities to actually learn and pick up practical knowledge. I have a feeling that I wrote that about something else and it like slipped its way into this. I don't remember, but I feel like that was a response to the kind of like bean soup phenomenon that's going on the internet, where no one wants to like look something up. I guess it's not the bean soup thing, it's something else. It's the thing where like someone asks for a link to something that is so easily discoverable on their own, and they just feel entitled to other people telling them exactly what it is. But maybe it was a response to something in the book. This is already becoming like a flop video if I can't remember what was going on. So I'm just gonna like, whatever. Oh, okay, I really like this. Plays with the idea that even in a fictional story, we must buy into and imagine what's happening as it exactly happened, and not as memory being retold only by one perspective. As soon as the interview with Thomas starts, I'm reminded that everything being told to me is not exactly as it was told to our narrator in the room that day. Yeah, so there was this thing in the book where like it really exposed that when we read something, when we read a novel, we have to like buy into what's going on. But ultimately, that's not necessarily what's going on. Like in the story itself, in the fiction, in the fictionalized world that we've entered, we don't know what's real and what's not. And I know that that's like the thing with the unreliable narrator and stuff, but I don't know. There's something about this book that really opens that up for like further further inspection of what that means and like what we are kind of agreeing to when we decide to like believe in something in a novel and in a piece of fiction. Thomas sees the interview unfolding in his head as it is a film. As he answers the interview questions, he directs the shots, how it would play out on screen. The screen is just another version of memory. Thomas transcribes their interview as it is happening into a new medium. This is a book about memory, about the ways in which we are reminded on a daily basis, if we pay attention, that we have been here. Yeah, I'm not gonna like keep going into the notes. I really loved it. It's a very quick read. I think it's under 200 pages, so go out and grab transcription. Either pick it up at the library or buy it from your local bookstore. It is a really great book. Okay, where did I go? I think this is like not gonna be a super edited video because I'm just like kind of chilling, if that's okay with you guys. Okay, but the third book I read this in one sitting. I read this like right after I finished transcription. I immediately found the ebook on the library app, whatever, and read this in like 20 minutes. So this is an amorous discourse in the suburbs of hell by Deborah Levy. I'm a pretty big Deborah Levy fan. I think I was looking her up because she has a new book coming out. But I found this little poetry book and it was like 70 pages, 40 it was something crazy. It was so small, but it's this back and forth. It was really cool. It was this back and forth poetry book from two perspectives of this couple. So it's like a conversation between a couple and they're in the middle of like a fight, and like different forms of poetry. So the whole thing is in poetry. It was really cool. I've never read anything like it. I've never read poetry in that form, like in the format of two people talking to each other through poetry. It was just very interesting. So yeah, I read that in like 20 minutes. It was great. Let's see. Didion and Babbitts by Lily Analick. That was the next book I read. I also really love this book. I think this was another book that I put off reading for some reason. I think I had this idea in my head that because Lily Analick was Eve Babbitt's like biographer, that it would be very like skewed towards that. And she does acknowledge that she has a bias towards Eve just because she like knew her personally and, you know. But I think it was really fair. There's just so much juxtapositions or like so much between the two women that was so, they were actually so similar in ways. Like but in opposite ways, if that makes sense. Like, the things, I think my biggest takeaway is they were so similar in the way that they were different from how they wanted to be perceived and how they wanted to show up in the world. I think I've said in the past that, like, I see Joan Didion as, like, such a cold person, and I don't mean that as an insult at all, but just, like, a very removed person and not very in touch with her femininity. I think her idols and writing were men, and she kind of, like, wanted to be seen as removed from femininity, or wanted to be taken seriously as a writer, and not just like a female writer, but as a writer. And she definitely was, but there was also, like, parts of her that I think she did rely on her femininity. She relied on her physicality, definitely. She relied on the fact that she was a very small, delicate, and fragile person, and she used that almost as like a form of protection, and she used her husband as a form of protection. I also feel like okay, this is like totally just my vibe of how I perceived the relationship, that her and John Donne, I think it was like a fully just like a business partnership. I do think that they loved each other. I don't think that there was like no love in that relationship. But I think that John Donne was gay, and I think that Joan seemed to me like almost asexual in a way. And I think she did have one, and it mentions this in the book, that she had this one like love of her life. I forgot his name, but it was like in the beginning when she was very young, and she couldn't be with this guy. I mean, they were together for some time, but he broke up with her, and he essentially like gave her John. And John was a close friend of this guy, and he said, I can't be with you, but I want you to get with my friend John. And I almost feel like there was some weird like transference or something, where John was maybe in love with this man too, or had feelings for this man, and then they both couldn't have him, so they like got with each other. And I don't know, this is obviously all my just like speculation, but it is very interesting. And so yeah, there's so much like juicy stuff in this book. If you're interested in Eve or Joan, definitely read this book. It was crazy. It was so good. It was really amazing. I could go on and on and on and on and on about this, but yeah, just go read the book. It was amazing. Okay, anyways, the next book I read, another Ben Lerner. I read the Topeka School by Ben Lerner. Okay, this was his second book. Here's the thing. I think every book he does is better than the last, which is great. You know, that means he's gonna like keep getting better, because I did really like this book, but I kind of rubbed up against it a few times. This was a very interesting story, and it takes place within this family. There's a lot of different perspectives. So the main character, his name is Adam. He's in high school in 1997. This was another thing I liked about it. I was born in 1997, and there's just something about like a Midwestern high school kid in the year that I was born that like floods my receptors in this way that I cannot describe, except for that, like, if reincarnation is real, then that is where I came from, if that makes any sense. Okay, but yeah, so this book takes place a bunch of different perspectives, a bunch of different like first person, third person, back and forth, and then I think there's even the second person perspective too at one point. But there's also this boy that goes to school with Adam that we also get his perspective too. But we get the parents, we get Adam, we get this boy. Adam is like a master debater at his school. And what else can I say? His parents are like, oh, his mother wrote a book about like, I think it was like a self-help book for women. And so she starts getting these like attacks by these men, and they call them the men, and they like call the house and stuff. And the dad, I actually don't want to spoil it. I want you to go out and read this book. I really loved it. Okay, I didn't love the final chapter. There's like a final, I would say like 15 pages at the very end of the book where it goes to modern time, and it was so jarring. And I know like the whole book could be seen as jarring, just the way that it changes so much in terms of perspective, and it's sometimes hard to follow. But I just like, I was kind of taken out of it. I don't know. I don't mean to be like some sort of like edgelord or something, or not even edgelord. What am I trying to say? There is a point at the end of the book where it goes to, I would say like right before Trump's first administration or around that time. And I have found so many books do this in ways that is so jarring and so takes you out of whatever story you're actually reading. And I don't want to say that like there's no room for that, because there absolutely is. But I want to feel like you put your whole entire heart and soul into telling that story, however you want to tell it. I don't want to see it like baked into the final 20 pages of a book that's about something completely different. Does that make sense? I don't know. It kind of feels ingenuine to me, or cheap in a way, that again just kind of takes me out of whatever story I'm reading. But that's just me. Whatever. But I did really like the book. I will say that I started reading his first book. I think it's called Leaving the Atacha Station. And I thought it was really beautiful. The prose was really beautiful. But I kind of decided about 60 pages in that I was going to DNF it, because I don't know, it wasn't really doing anything for me. And I have a lot of books that I'm like waiting to get into. A few books that I've already started, and it was a library book, so I knew if I was going to read it, I would have to read it in a timely manner, and I just decided it wasn't worth it. Maybe I'll go back to it at some point, but for now, I DNF'd. Okay, the final book was, I have no notes on this, I just finished it, Inspiration Porn by Ryan O'Connell. I really loved Ryan O'Connell's novel just by looking at him. I read that last year, and I liked this book. There was some really interesting like parts in it. It was a book of essays. I don't know if I was like, I don't know. Overall, I liked it. I read it very quickly, which means it was very readable. I think he's a great writer. He's very millennial. Which I think is like charming. As someone on the cusp of like millennial and Gen Z, I don't mind it, but I'm like very hyper aware of it. Because I think like I'm not scared of coming off millennial. I actually don't mind that. I feel more in touch with my millennial side than my Gen Z side sometimes. I will say, like, the one thing that sticks out to me, and this is just, like, the most minor nitpick, is that he kept calling himself and other men boys. Like, he kept referring to them as boys. He never used the word men. And if that's, like, a personal preference, that's fine. But, like, sometimes when people call adults boys or girls, I don't like it. Like, it kind of makes my skin crawl. I'm just like, like, and one of the things he's like 35. I'm like, you're not a boy, you're 35 years old. Like, I'm not a girl. And sometimes I do use girl, and then I'm just like, ugh. Or like I'll use girl to talk about like other women, and then I'm like, ew, I don't know why I said that. Like, especially people older than me, if I refer to like a man or a woman older than me as a girl or a boy, I really don't like that. I just found toothpaste on my arm, you guys. I don't know how I never noticed that. It's like 9:30 and I've not brushed my teeth in hours. But anyways, I'm gonna wrap it up here. This was like not the most amazing book review, but I think I had so much fun reading these books. This was probably like my best reading month in a long time. I'm very excited for what I have next month, and I will just show you 2 books that I'm in the middle of. We have Where Art Belongs by Chris Kraus. Love this. I think from now on I need to be reading a nonfiction and a fiction at the same time. So my fiction is Kill Dick by Luke Goebel. Excuse me. I just picked this up at Stories the other day. I saw the cover, saw the palm trees, saw the pink and yellow, immediately knew what kind of book this was because I've been conditioned, because every Hollywood mystery whatever novel nowadays is the yellow text with the pink sunset palm tree background. I just know, and I'm like, my eyes just find it immediately. And I'm having really a lot of fun. This is actually the husband of Ottessa Moshfegh, and she does have a blurb on the back of the book. This is very fun, very reminiscent of Bruce Wagner and like how zany and wacky and out there it is. It's a story about a girl who's like this rich girl from LA. Her dad is a lawyer for the Sackler family. If you don't know, they're the family like that owns like Oxycontin and stuff like that, like major drug family, made a lot of money on people's suffering and death. And her teacher from NYU that like comes to LA. So far in the story, she doesn't know that he's there, and he's getting into some crazy wild antics. And then her drug dealer, it's really fun. I can't wait to see what happens because I still have a lot to go. So yeah, that is what's up with me. And if you guys watched this whole video, thanks for watching. And I have a really fun video coming up. It took me a while to film because I had to like get all the pieces together, but it will be another kind of like style clothing related video. But until then, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching.